Welcome to the Biohacking Beauty Podcast. My guest today is Dr. Jen Haley. Dr. Haley, please, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm Dr. Jen Haley. You can call me Jen. And I'm a board certified dermatologist. I've been working as a dermatologist since 2001. I've been board certified since 2004. And we were just discussing this before the recording with
Mhm.
Amate. I spent 15 years in the Navy. So I've worked all around the world, all around the country, in the United States and outside of the United States, taking care of people with different skin types from all around the world, and both in the military and the civilian sector. And one thing that I've noticed over the years is the importance of taking care of your skin from within.
Mhm.
So, I've had the privilege of taking care of people with unlimited resources. They can pay any amount of money for lasers and all different procedures. And, even though they did all of those procedures, something just didn't sit right with me. Maybe they were drinking too much or they had a lot of stress in their life or a lot of sugar. And because of my undergraduate training at Cornell University with nutrition, I've always had an interest in nutrition and fitness. I've done some marathons and some fitness competitions and kind of just side challenges. And I've realized that what you do in all of the other aspects of your life is more important than your genetics and what you're doing externally. So there's a compound effect of what you do every day, right? Like if you have one cookie a day or an extra 100 calories at the end of the year, that's 10 pounds. And the
Yeah.
same holds true for your skin. So I started a podcast about 3-4 months ago called Radiance Revealed to get together with people like you to share this message that we have the power to take care of our skin, take care of our health, feel better, look better, just by the decisions we make every day to move in the right direction or the wrong direction. And it's not an all or nothing thing. It's not like you have to be perfect or you're a big failure. It's like, okay, well, that will be good and that will be bad as long as there's more positives and there are negatives, and you're aware of those and your knowledge about those, then you can gain control and have power over your health. So that's
Yeah.
the short snippet of it all.
Actually, that's a beautiful um, glimpse into what you do. And to us, it was very for me even specifically. As I told you before we started, that I'm a personal fan of yours because I believe that completely separately from Young Goose, the company that we've started, the skincare company that we've started, you are really on the same frequency as what we are trying to convey. Is that, yeah, we can make literally the best product the world has ever seen, and it doesn't matter what magic ingredient it's going to have. That's going to lead to maybe 5% of your skin health. The rest is what you do in your day-to-day life, your sleep, nutrition, habits, sun exposure, etc., 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 which of course we're going to talk about today. But it was, a eureka moment when I stumbled upon your Instagram feed and your podcast, because I was even relieved to find someone with your certification, with your level of um, education, if you would, that speaks really in the same language that we speak. And we often, when we do seminars or we do talks in medical spas, I always give the analogy about which you gave with lasers, right? Um, I always give the analogy: you can be the best artist, but you are still dependent on your canvas. You're not going
Hmm.
to have the best work of art or any work of art if instead of a canvas you would try to paint on a cave wall. You're not going to be Rembrandt.
I love that analogy.
Yeah. So
I
this
love
is
it.
where we started in, and so right now you're based in Arizona, right?
I am. I'm based in Arizona and I've been doing telemedicine since 2013. So when COVID started, my telemedicine practice really escalated. So I see mostly telemedicine now. I'm licensed in 22 states and I work through a platform called Dermatologist on Call. And I like it because I'm not limited to the constraints of insurance, because insurance will typically want us to give medications and things like that, which I'm not opposed to. Sometimes I will use medications to decrease inflammation for acne while the lifestyle habits take a chance to kick in so that people can reduce inflammation from the inside out. So I definitely believe in a topical nourishing approach in skincare. I love it. I think maybe it's a little more than 5%. And it's something I definitely recommend people doing. I'm not against lasers. I love them as well. I just think that you can't neglect your health and then expect someone to fix it later on. It's like you go to the dentist and you can get your teeth cleaned, but you still have to go home and brush your teeth every day. And that's how I look
Yes.
at skincare. Skincare is essential and you nourish the skin from the outside in, but you can't neglect the inside out.
Yeah, that's an amazing analogy, actually. And then we can take it one step further, and we can say, well, if you're going to be, just as an example, if you're going to not consume any vitamin C, you're going to deplete your vitamin C storages, and you're going to get scurvy. Your teeth are going to fall out. So there is like a next level to the holistic approach of nutrition and whatever would support, for that matter, your teeth or your skin or whatever that would be.
Mhm.
So, so Jen, tell me, you're doing almost exclusively telemedicine right now, right?
As far as patient care, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've consulted with different companies here and there for developing apps and intellectual content and AI kind of stuff, like lots of just online information. I edit blogs and do things like that for people as well.
I understand. And as far when you meet a patient and you're trying to really tweak their lifestyle, what are some pillars you're looking at? What are some things that you wanna, that you sink your teeth into in the beginning?
Yeah, I think we're really aligned because you mentioned most of them in the beginning. So sleep is a hard one for me. I've never been a good sleeper my entire life, so I can really relate to people who have a hard time sleeping.
Mhm.
I think there's so many great books out there. Matthew Walker has a book called
Yes.
Why We Sleep. Yeah, and he talks about, all the different things that you can do to help your sleep. And sleep is really essential, sticking to a regular schedule and making sure that you get that sleep because during the daytime, our body and even the skincare we use during the day is going to be different than the skincare we use at night, as well as the processes in our bodies. So during the day, our body is basically in prevention mode. Let's try to prevent, reactive oxygen species and, environmental damage. We use the sunscreen, we use antioxidants on our skin. We want to prevent and protect. And at night is when we repair and we nourish and renew our skin. So
Yes.
all the metabolic processes are different at night than they are during the day. So we need that time to sleep so that, our brain can filter, our skin can clean out all of the buildup of the waste products that occur during the day. So we really need that time in order to renew and repair. And I find that people that don't sleep or people that are really stressed, you can look at the presidents in the United States over the 4 years and the stress of that job and the little sleep and how quickly people age from the fact that, there's the president's stem cells obviously aren't working as well because they go remarkably gray. Well, that's
Yeah.
an indicator.
You just reminded me. I just read a research recently about how depletion of stem cells in hair follicle makes through due to stress, due to high cortisol level, uh, you know, uh, leads to
Can
gray
make
hair.
Yeah, pretty quickly, and you hear those old stories of, oh, they were frightened and then they turn gray the next day. Well, there's a little something to that, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the amount of stress that we have can cause, or somebody who has, loses a child or loses a family member, you undergo a lot of stress. And, we all have stress every day and that compound effect of stress. So sleeping, the first thing, stress is very related to sleep. And simple things like breathing. I mean, I'll stand in the grocery store or stand in or sit in traffic. And instead of being aggravated that I can't go anywhere, which is beyond my control, why not just breathe?
Yeah.
So there's specific type of breathing, and there's some that are going to work better for some people than other people. And I went to 40 Years of Zen. Are you familiar with 40 Years of Zen?
Yes.
Yeah, I went to that last summer, and what they do is they check your HRV and they match your breath rate to your specific HRV. And for
Hmm.
me, my pattern was inhale 6, exhale 7. So there's a little app I use called, I think, I don't know, Breathe Plus or something. But before that, and I still do this other technique by Dr. Andrew Weil with the 4 inhales. So you inhale for a count of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You hold for a count of 7, which for me, the holding really is huge. And then you
Yeah.
exhale through your mouth for a count of 8. And James Nestor has a great book called Breath, where he talks about the importance of breathing through your nose so you can make a nitric oxide. Nitric oxide dilates the blood vessels. Why do we need blood vessels so much? It's because blood is responsible for delivering nutrients to all the organs, with the skin being the largest organ, and also for removing all the metabolic waste products. So good blood flow is really essential, which is my
Yes.
third pillar. My third pillar is exercise. And I prefer intermittent exercise because I think we're meant to kind of sprint and do short bursts of exercise. So I prefer, intermittent exercise, not really long endurance exercise, as that's been linked to shortened telomere length.
Mhm.
So I prefer short bursts, maybe some high intensity, or even walking and just moving all day long. Don't hire people to do all these things, vacuum your own floors, mop, pick your weeds, walk to the mailbox, walk the dog, go for a walk with your neighbor, do your meetings over the phone walking. So I constantly believe in lots of moving to enhance the blood flow so that we can kind of like deliver nutrients, remove waste, deliver, remove. And then the fourth pillar is nutrition. And real foods, colorful foods, easier said than done. There's a lot of nuances with nutrition, which we can
Mhm.
obviously get into, but really the more colorful foods, the better. I follow Gabrielle Lyon, and I like her muscle centric
Okay.
training. I do well with a high protein diet with meat. Some people do well vegan. It's really a personal choice, but there are some genetic testing that can be done. I have a
Mhm.
good friend who's a functional medicine doctor. He's actually, I think he's near you in Miami, Dr. Elliot Dinetz, and he will test genetics, your genetic profile, and help formulate the best diet, or nutrition
Yeah.
program for you. So, what works for someone else might not work for you. And I think that's important to just listen to your body and pay attention to yourself and be intuitive with what works for you and what makes you feel good and what doesn't. And sometimes that starts with eliminating a lot of things like the heavy, the things that are the most inflammatory, like dairy, grains, especially gluten and wheat. And then I don't like, processed vegetable oils. I don't think anyone should like those. And then just picking cleaner foods, pasture raised eggs, pasture raised chicken, wild fish that are low in mercury, and then grass fed red meat. I'm not a fan of pork for me. I find it acidic, but you have to figure out what works for you.
Yeah. So that was a lot of information,
I know,
which is
sorry.
amazing. So just to kind of really rewind and talk a little bit about sleep and tying it in a little bit with nutrition, which was the last topic.
Mhm.
Do you like any sleep supporting supplements? Whether it's CBD, melatonin, magnesium, whatever that would be. Do you like any?
Yeah. I've taken all of them just because
Yeah.
I'm not a great sleeper since I could remember, when I was 5 or 6. I used to be a little concerned about melatonin as far as taking it every night because with our bodies, we have a negative feedback loop. So if you take a hormone or a thyroid or testosterone or melatonin, your body can stop producing it. Now, with the last year, with the coronavirus, we have seen that higher doses of melatonin have such an amazing antioxidant effect that I
Mhm.
am recommending that people supplement, and I do supplement with melatonin at night. I do like melatonin. I think some people it works for and some people it doesn't work for. I don't think you need a high dose like 10 milligrams. I think a half a milligram is going to work fine. I might go up to 5 milligrams for short periods of time to help reset people if they're, traveling, which we're not doing much of anymore,
Yes.
for jet lag and stuff. CBD works well for some people, other people it doesn't. And I actually just recorded a podcast. It hasn't launched yet, where it was interesting. I thought CBD was supposed to be taken at night.
Uh-huh.
But the expert that I discussed it with, he said it's better to be taken in the afternoon. So I think we have a lot more to explore and discover with CBD. We do know that it's highly anti-inflammatory. So if somebody's staying awake at night because they have back pain or some sort of a joint pain, CBD is definitely going to be more helpful for them than if someone has a circadian rhythm issue. Then melatonin is going to help more
Yeah.
with them. And then I like valerian for short term. I've been playing with kava. There's
Okay.
there's Kavaplex. True Kava makes Kavaplex, and I find that to be beneficial as well. But it takes some time to build in the system. And yeah, I kind of like all of those. I like a company called Pure Encapsulations. They make something called Best Rest, and that's one of my favorites. I feel like that works the best for me.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you actually about Best Rest because I'm one of the companies I really like is Pure Encapsulation. Um, so as far as magnesium, you don't feel there is a big need
Look,
for it?
oh no, I absolutely think everyone needs magnesium in this country for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, unless you're living like um in Ecuador at the high area where there's lots of volcanic, really healthy soil, you definitely need magnesium. So there's certain nutrients that we're just not getting very well in
Hmm.
our food anymore because our food is grown in our soil and we're dependent on the health of our soil and the health of our water in order for our foods to be healthy, right? So
Yeah.
things like blueberries from like hundreds of years ago are nowhere near as healthy as the blueberries we have now.
Hmm.
And so I'll go for like wild blueberries, for instance. But going back to the magnesium, yeah, I think magnesium deficiency causes a lot of problems in people from,
Yeah.
restless legs at night to migraines to constipation to all sorts of things, TMJ even. So
Yeah.
I love magnesium. I like Magnesium Breakthrough, which is a
Hmm.
company with bioptimizers. And because they have the 7 forms of magnesium, it gets a little tricky knowing what form of magnesium to take. And the
Yeah.
magnesium citrate is the one that can cause diarrhea and loose stools. So I'll go for like magnesium threonate in the middle of the day. Like I took some today because I like magnesium with vitamin D in the morning to help vitamin D convert to the more active form of vitamin D in the body. And
Hmm.
I believe that vitamin D is better to be taken in the morning because it works more like a hormone and gives you some energy and things like that. Even though it's fat soluble and it's stored, I prefer to take it as a supplement in the morning. It's a more natural rhythm. So I do recommend a little bit of magnesium in the morning. And then at night, I like magnesium glycinate or the magnesium breakthrough, which has all 7 forms of it.
Which is a
Yeah,
more it helps you kind of relax and fall asleep maybe a little bit better, right?
exactly. Especially if you're deficient. The thing about these supplements is they're there to supplement. So if you don't need it, you're not going to notice a difference. But if you're deficient, you will notice a bigger difference.
Especially when we're talking about vitamin D and you know, one of the epidemics that America has is vitamin D deficiency. We can definitely see it with the coronavirus and the I think it's like over 90% vitamin D deficiency in emergency wards right now, if I'm not mistaken, which is crazy.
Hmm.
And we're now staying more at home, so it's even more exacerbated. So it's really important.
Yeah, and the other thing is if your doctor says if you get your vitamin D checked and your doctor says it's normal, which is what I was told, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and as a doctor who should be more educated on the topic at the time, I was told it was normal. And then I looked at the blood test and it said it was 31. Well, 31 that's in the normal range, but it's not optimal. So normal and optimal are two different things. So I look for 50 to 80 as far as vitamin
Mhm.
D goes. I know the last time I had mine check, I was coming down with a cold and I mega dosed with like 20,000 units a day. I use a day, and I think my number was over 100, but I knew it cleared out pretty quickly. So I do recommend that people take about 5,000 IU a day. Nobody has overdosed and with under 10,000 IU a day. And obviously, I'm not giving personal medical advice on here, but I usually that's what I will recommend with most people. And I also this has changed over the last 20 years because I used to say, don't go in the sun, right? And in
Yeah,
Miami, you get a lot of sun. We get a lot of sun in Arizona. So we're always covered up. I wear a hat outside, I wear sunscreen, I wear long sleeves. Um, but I think, Zach Bush has done some good work on this with the energy that our body makes, it's almost like we're these photosynthetic beings. And I believe a little bit of sunshine is good. Number one, it's really good to go outside in the morning, especially if you have
Yeah.
problems sleeping, so your eyes can be reset, or use a red light device like the Juve red light, use some sort of a red light device in the morning. So, you're just not attached to blue light all the time from the
Yes.
computers and the devices. And, but if you can get your retina in the sunlight, not staring at the sun, but in sunlight, indirect sunlight in the morning for 30 minutes, that's going to help a lot with sleep and just kind of get you in a good circadian rhythm. And I try to expose a little bit of back or tummy to the sun, maybe 10 minutes 3 times a week, not just for vitamin D, but there's other energetic benefits from that. I just try to keep the high real estate. I'll be 50 this year, so I don't want my high real estate to get any more wrinkled or anything like that. So I like cover up my face and my hands and my neck and things like that, but I'll get a little bit on the back and the stomach. And as a dermatologist, that was something that I would actually get angry at people saying 10 years ago. And I've really come around to be a little bit more logical about it. We're living longer. So we want to be able to live to 120 and have this drape on us, this thing called skin that doesn't look like a cooked rotisserie chicken. Yet we also want to feel good in the process, right? So that's where we try to find the balance.
Yeah, and it is a balance, right? There is a balance between how much our body can repair, but along the damage process, there are processes that we need, like vitamin D production. And we did speak about nitric oxide. So one of the things, and that's kind of that's very interesting. So you mentioned the Juve light, which is an red infrared panel that you stand in front of 10, 20 minutes. And basically what it does, it distills the positively affecting rays that your body is kind of designed to utilize in the sun without the negative. Ruling obviously the fact that we need UV to create vitamin D. That's to synthesize vitamin D. That's different. But are you a big believer in red light therapy and creating nitric oxide through exposure to red light?
Yeah, I don't think that's the only way to go, but I think just like everything else we discuss, it's a way to complement. So
Yeah.
I like to have beets, I like to have arugula, nitric oxide rich foods. And then breathing through your nose, right?
Yeah.
Because we talked about how we convert nitric oxide ourselves. So the power is in ourselves. We don't always have to buy something. We can just make a habit of breathing through your nose, which we really we do a lot of mouth breathing. So, that solves a lot of problems. But I do like the red light, especially if somebody doesn't have access to sunlight every day. And also it helps with, it just helps improve the collagen as opposed to break down the collagen like UV radiation. I remind
Yeah.
people that ultraviolet light is a radiation, so there
Yeah.
is some radiation damage. And you don't always get the vitamin D production from sunlight. So if you're getting UV radiation through a window, it's blocking the UVB rays, which are the ones that cause B for burning and also for vitamin D production. If it's a cloudy day, you may not be getting the UVB rays because they're the
Yeah.
shorter waves, so they don't always penetrate as deep, which is the ones that we need for vitamin D production. So you may be getting radiation from the sun without getting the benefits of the red light and benefits of the vitamin D production if all the settings aren't proper. So I do like red light if somebody has access to it. There are some places you can go if you can't afford to buy a red light for your home. And then all red lights are not created equal. So you need to do your research because some people are just coloring bulbs and making them red,
Yes.
and that's not a red light.
Yeah, that's correct. First of all, so really, if we do talk a little bit about this subject, because I do feel that it's a disservice to talk about red light and then kind of leave it there, because let's just make the distinction between a red light sauna, which is based on heat, based on creating a lot of heat, and a red light therapy panel, which the better it is, the less heat it actually creates, right? Because one is designed to kind of stimulate our mitochondria, stimulate the little engines that we have in our cell. And I don't like to call them engines because you have one engine in a car, right? Mitochondria, it's almost like the reindeer of Santa's sled, right? If one doesn't perform so well, there are others, but we really want to keep them in kind of the best shape possible. And so cold red light stimulates that, and infrared sauna doesn't really, right?
Yeah, but I think there's other benefits of infrared sauna because I got in this discussion
Yeah,
with someone because I don't enjoy saunas. I'd rather go outside and work out and
yeah.
sweat, and just sitting there and sweating is extremely uncomfortable for me. But there are benefits with blood pressure and sleep and things like that. So,
Mhm.
but I see what you're saying. You're not going to get the benefits of the infrared red light from the
Yeah.
sauna that you would get from the light. Yes.
Or I have a friend who registered to a chain of gyms because one of the benefits they offer is a kind of they basically converted a tanning bed to they converted the bulbs, the halogen uh,
Oh.
strips, to red light halogen strips. But you take one look at them and you realize that's not really what you want, that the frequency isn't there. And the fact that it is red doesn't mean it really affects your cells.
Yeah, I think that's the most important takeaway. Like all red lights are not created equal
Yeah,
because just because it looks red doesn't mean it has the right wavelength. So we're
yeah,
looking for the wavelength as a form of communication to the cells to boost, the mitochondria and also to help stimulate collagen and things like that. And you brought up an important point with mitochondria because I love mitochondria. I've talked about them for years, and um having a lot isn't always better because we don't
yeah,
want those zombie mitochondria around. So
correct.
as we're older, we have extra mitochondria, extra cells that are kind of just taking up space and not doing anything. So that's where like autophagy and, that's where autophagy is so important because as things pile up, I think we just look kind of like looking at our skin, it can look kind of sallow and heavy and
Mhm.
just washed out. So in order to freshen yourself up, both, by helping clean out maybe some of the, uric acid or some of the heavy deposits in the joints so you don't feel so achy or, your stomach doesn't feel so bloated or you want your skin to be a little bit refreshed. I'm a big fan of intermittent fasting because when we fast, we take a little bit of break so that, our body can like clean up the kitchen because we're not cooking all the
Yeah.
time, right? Or eating all the time. So all those like dirty plates in our body now have a chance to get cleaned and we get to do something called autophagy or mitophagy, where our body cleans up the zombie cells or the dead cells or the dead organelles like the mitochondria that are now no longer doing anything or having any benefit and just taking up space. And then that allows the actual functions of the cells that are producing and the organelles that are working to work better. And there's a lot of ways to do intermittent fasting. Are you a fan of that?
Not only that, I'm a fan of that. I kind of from looking at research, I do two types actually. So I do a 16/8 kind of traditional intermittent fasting or time restricted eating where I would eat. I'd really eat though, because this is I have to spend an extra time on a specific subject, which is among my friends, most of them I've already converted to intermittent fasting. But the problem is that most of them do not realize that the milk in their coffee at 7 a.m. is considered feeding, and the blueberry they're gonna snack on, that's a good case scenario, at midnight is also a type of feeding, and then we're really interrupting that process. So we're really doing 99% of the job, but then ruining it in the last stretch. And if we really look at autophagy, especially liver function, um, we really do not want to intake any positive net calorie for in that fasting window of 16 hours or more. But to answer your question a little bit more precisely, to for autophagy, from what I know, and I love if you correct me to make my life easier, you really need a longer period than 16 hours to get an effective recycling of the waste of cellular waste. And that every quarter I would do like a 3-day fast where, where I would kind of prepare myself better. I'm gonna do a ketogenic diet like a week before to be fat adapted, as we say, and
Nice.
really, usher in that process. And that is where I look to increase autophagy, for that matter.
Yeah, that's
Don't take
amazing.
like apigenin and ficetine. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
Ficetine,
Ficetine. I say
ficetine.
ficetine. Ficetine. Yeah. Ficetine or ficetine.
To
Ficetine. I
kind
say
of,
ficetine. I never feel like I'm saying that one right either. I just say ficetine. So you
yeah,
take that during your fast, or do you
I
take it
do.
all the
I do
time?
not. I take it before the fast to kind of
Okay.
kickstart. I'll do a week, really a 7-day prep where I'll take.
Hmm.
So we have that's kind of exclusive information. We have a study going on for a new product that we're developing, which is an Epigenetic Cream. So
Nice.
I'll apply that. That gets into the bloodstream, so I don't need any supplementation of that. But I am going to supplement on fisetin, which we have had problems, um, you know, showing efficacy in topical form.
With delivery, getting it
Yes,
delivered. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, I know it's trickier than people think. It's not as simply
right.
converted. I love what you said about the liver because I feel like our liver just gets so congested over time from all the toxins and, in the environment and even from like the VOCs or the volatile organic compounds in our homes coming from our furniture and our rugs and our livers get congested and you can see just the swelling in the midsection of many people over time and even if they're doing all the right things they're having a hard time lose weight. So that's when I really take a step back and I look at like, okay, let's get the liver detoxed, give it a break. So, we just need to let our bodies heal itself by setting up the optimal conditions. And that's all that I try to do in my recommendations is like, okay, let's see what we can do so your body can actually heal itself. And then with autophagy, do you follow David Sinclair's work? He's kind of
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Shortly speaking, yes, I do.
Yeah, so that's what he discusses, and he cracks me up because he says that you start to hit autophagy at 24 hours,
Yeah.
and I give it to you because I can't do seven. I mean, I can do 72 hours. I haven't chosen to do 72 hours. Let me use my words carefully. So, but 24 hours is fairly easy to do once a month for me. I just go 3 p.m. to 3 p.m. So I'm not really start hungry when I go to sleep, and then I can get a good workout in and
Yeah.
do a little work and then eat. So it's not very difficult. So real autophagy kicks in at 24 hours and maximizes at 72 hours. And he even admits he can't do 72 hours. So if like the head of all the longevity research says he can't do 72 hours, I don't feel so awful. But 24 hours once a month is awesome. If you could do 72 once a quarter, Walter Longo has the fasting mimicking diet, which I personally tried about 6 years ago. I think they've changed it since then. It was awful. I'd rather
Yeah.
eat nothing.
Yes.
Um,
They've
but I think,
changed it now. It's not as if I would assume it's not as effective, but it is. We just had one of our workers go through the 5 step program,
yeah,
which they now have a name for. It's not even called the fast mimicking diet anymore. Like it has an official name, but it's
Prolon.
like,
It's called
oh, yeah.
Prolon. Prolon. Yeah.
So yeah, so that's a much better program now than it used to be as far as
Right.
this.
Yeah. And then as far as the other way of fasting, which is time restricted eating,
Yeah.
the 16 hours of no eating for men and the 8-hour window of eating is really, that's been proven very well for men. For women, not so much. For
Yeah.
women, it's, you can really increase the stress hormones and the cortisol hormones and then hurt some of the estrogen and the progesterone
Right.
from forming. So for women, it's more of a cyclical sort of pattern of intermittent fasting or time restricted eating. So like the week before a woman's period and the week of the woman's period, you really don't want to time restrict as much. But week, 2 and 3, you can go heavy keto or, and time restrict. And and even change the type of exercise you do and go a little bit heavier. So people will want to look into that. And then for women, I personally like women to do like 4 or 5 days a week of 14 hours. And then,
Okay.
with a more of a normal eating pattern the other 2 days so that your body doesn't go into that stress mode. And then your body's like, oh, I do get food. I don't need to shut down. And then all of a sudden
How
again,
about
you're restricting.
how about for women specifically? How about the actual hours which you would be consuming food at? So for me, for example, my schedule kind of revolves around my training. So I like to have a morning training which is fasted,
Hmm.
and then I can't eat, too close to my evening training, which is super high intensity. Um, so for me, for example, my last meal is going to be around 9 p.m., which isn't positive because it kind of follows the training. Um, and looking at research, it looks like for women it wouldn't be optimal because of their cyclical nature of hormonal nature. So would you say that you recommend certain time window
I
of
don't
day?
think so. Yeah, no, I think it has more to do with lifestyle. So, like for me, 9 o'clock would be way too late to eat because I won't sleep if I have a full stomach and I like to go to bed by 10. So, I always ask people what their patterns are. If they have a husband who comes home from work and they always have a nice dinner with some, wine and it's a big to do, then that might be 9 o'clock, might be their time. I find a lot of people like to be done by 6 and then they can get a good
Yeah.
night's sleep and then start again after a workout in the morning. They get up, they go work out, and then by 10 or 11 they can eat. And that it's a very easy one to follow. But I don't think I actually haven't been familiar with any research studies showing that there's an optimal time window. So I think that gives people the power and the flexibility to do what works best for them as long as they're giving themselves a break with no milk, no blueberries, none of the things that you said, for 14 hours for a woman, 16 hours for a man. And you brought up another point about fasting and setting yourself up the week before. It's a lot harder to fast if you eat a bunch of junk and then you're like, okay, now I'm going to quit. Now that I had the chocolate cake last night, it's a lot harder for your body to do that than if you ease into it. And then when you refeed afterwards, your body's ready to build. It's like, yeah, I'm ready to build. So think about what you're feeding it and you want maximum
Yes.
nutrition and maximum building blocks.
Yes, that was actually my next question. A
Mhm.
lot of me, I'm guilty of that as well. Where when I was, starting my fasting, and by the way, for a long time I was doing 14 hours. So, but when I was starting my fasting journey, I always felt like I won, like I've beaten another day,
Yeah.
and now I get my reward. And I would eat something that's suboptimal, something that has gluten or simple carbs or whatever that would be. And really, the big shift for me and when I fell in love with intermittent fasting was when I understood that my body is primed to build. My body is waiting for its building blocks. And if I'm going to give it, just for as an example, hydrogenated, soybean oil
Yeah.
you know, or pasta or whatever that would be, the building blocks, or well, the building's gonna look like the building blocks, right? And
Yep.
then stuff's, you know, you're going, we say in Hebrew, you're going 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yes,
I
yeah,
think
yeah, I get it, Amate.
yeah,
So, or Amatai, sorry. So I get it because, I would do the same thing. I'd go, this was really last summer when I started dabbling with this, and I would, go for like a mountain bike ride afterwards, and then eat like a bag of granola with, you know, um, chocolate and like I love that Love Crunch granola. It tastes so good, but I had a continuous glucose monitor on at the time. I was wearing a continuous glucose monitor and it was so eye-opening for me because I'd check and I'm looking and my sugar's like 250. I said,
yeah,
I just burned like 2000 calories mountain biking and my sugar is 250. Clearly like my glycogen stores are not depleted and I'm not
yeah,
metabolically flexible and I'm not doing my body any good. There's no nutrients in here. There's only calories. So we have in America for sure we have a lot of calorie dense food that's nutrient deficient,
yes,
depleted. So we want to look for maximum nutrients, which is real full food, colorful food. Don't be afraid of fats. I tend to shy away from grains and processed carbs. I think that's kind of the enemy. But don't shy away from fats. That's one of the best things for your skin. Avocado, nuts,
Yeah.
I mean, healthy oils, fatty fish, assuming you can tolerate all of these things.
Yes, and I think I really like the fact that you used the phrase metabolic flexibility. I think if if I could really give it a heading to the next positive fad and I'm not using fad in a bad way, fad in nutrition, the next big word would be metabolic flexibility. You
I
know,
agree.
that's where longevity and health really lies when you can, in 48 hours become fat burning or fat utilizing. For someone who's new to that, when you deplete sugar, glycogen from your muscles, your body flips and starts using ketone or starts using fat to create its own energy, which are called ketones. So, and that's where ketogenic diet comes from. So that's very interesting. And unfortunately, we're very short for time today. We for sure would have to do it again. But
Absolutely.
I did want to circle back to breathing real quickly, because in the end, we are trying to motivate people to become healthy through the understanding that they're going to look better if they are healthier. And when I read James Nestor's book, one of the earth-shattering discoveries I've learned there was that your facial symmetry, how your face looks, is going to drastically change if you started breathing only through your nose or vice versa. Have you read a little bit about that?
Yeah, I read part of that section. Yeah, I believe it to be true. And I also believe that the face changes based on many things. So
Yeah,
the thoughts you have in your head, right? Are we having positive thoughts? Are we being impeccable to ourselves with positive thoughts and positive relationships? And the breathing makes complete sense because the airways will expand where they're utilized and they'll contract where they're not utilized. So, I think about it with kids though, because he talks about the teeth and the crowding of the teeth and
yeah,
Weston Price's work and how when we breathe through our mouths and we eat very soft food, what happens is we don't even have enough room in our mouths for our teeth to fit. And that's why kids need braces nowadays. Whereas, do you think there were braces 300 years ago? No, because kids were like gnawing on food and meat
yeah.
and, and like vegetables that were not cooked and things like that. And I don't know if I don't recall. I don't think is it too late? When you're,
No,
this age, you can still change. You still have power to modify and improve yourself by, breathing through your nose and taking full breaths. Like, I mean, as I'm talking, I'm taking shallow breaths, but when you speak, breathing through your nose, pausing, it
yeah,
sets off like a parasympathetic as opposed to us talking over each other. Like some people
yes,
are pressured and they're talking and they're interrupting, and that's sympathetic and that's sending all the wrong signals to the body as opposed to breathing and setting parasympathetic tone throughout your body, and that allows processes to be more efficient without cortisol running through the body.
mhm,
So yeah, I think it can change your face, which is kind of cool.
yeah. And of course, breathing deeply and well would stimulate your vagus nerve, which is another part of the sympathetic nervous system, and calming down and kind of facilitating calming sensation in the body, which is very important.
And
That
delivers
everyone.
oxygen. We deliver
Yes.
oxygen to our organs, and our skin is our largest visible organ. So the presentation of your skin is a good representation of what's going on with all of your organs. It's just another organ, but we can see it. So when you're having a rash or you're having inflammation, that's a good clue that there's inflammation going on inside the body. When I typically question these patients, they're having some gut symptoms. They're having maybe some foggy brain issues. They're having some joint pain and things like that. So all of these kind of inflammatory things are related. They're not separate. You don't need to go to four doctors for them. Just look at your four pillars, or, there's actually many more pillars out there, but don't get overwhelmed. Just do one step at a time. And then as soon as people start feeling better, everything kind of just cascades, and it's a beautiful domino effect. And you feel better, you can exercise more, and then you want to feed your body better, and you have new friends that are very positive that you do things with, and it's a beautiful process. I love seeing the evolution of it.
And I love the picture you created because exactly like, supplements are the most common example where people, quit or stop using them because they don't feel the difference after a short amount of time. And I really like that kind of vision you drew of one small change would lead to the next change, which would lead to the next change. And you're going to get that reinforcing positive loop of, better health, better nutrition, better exercise, better environment, better friends, happier life, more fulfilled life, more confidence, more self-love. And, then we can take upon ourselves maybe another, health change, which would manifest, itself in other areas.
Yeah, and sometimes that starts with skincare. So I love skincare because they're massaging their face at night, they're taking time for themselves, they're doing these, self-care rituals, and then they start feeling like they look better, and then it evolves. So you may say it's 5%. I think it's a little bit more than that. And it's always something that I recommend for people to do is a high quality skincare. But just don't think that these external things are all everything for you, because
Yes.
most things that work the most are free and they're within yourself.
Correct. Yeah, and 5%, again, we're a skincare company, so what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to downplay the obvious. You obviously need to take skincare seriously. You shouldn't put, a $1 product on your face. It's going to do more harm than good. You should kind of find out what works for you, etc. And definitely that's a big part of how your skin is going to look over time. But I am trying to kind of, hammer in the message that a holistic approach and an overall health approach is the way to go, and skincare is a component
Mhm.
in there.
Yeah, and
Um,
I mean, with that being said, I just want to add one more thing. I know I'm
yeah,
the one with the short on time here, but you're so fun to talk to. So with that in mind, like a lot of people will chalk it up to their genetics, like, oh, it's my genetics. But there's, when I went to medical school, we were taught like your genetics determines your reality. And now we know with the field of epigenetics, that's 100% not true. So we have these genes and these genetic predispositions, and 90%, 80 to 90% of what we choose in this world, even sometimes our circumstances suck, but we can choose to be very stressed about them or choose not to be very stressed about them. So, you know, what we choose to do in our lives will determine whether those genes are switched on or switched off. So, just because we have genetic predispositions doesn't mean it's our destiny. And that's epigenetics.
exactly. If someone has a very confused look after I kind of delve into epigenetics, which is what we focus on, our skincare is skincare that's built to activate sirtuins. That's what it's there for, which are those genes that you were talking about. So I always tell them, if you take a rabbit and you put it where there's snow, it's going to turn white. If
Hmm.
you're going to put it where there's no snow, it's going to be, normal rabbit color. And that is epigenetics, right? You can turn on and off certain genes according to what you expose yourself to. You're not going to turn white in the snow, unfortunately, but aside from that, um,
Exactly. And there's great twin studies on this, where they take two identical twins and they
yes,
just see how they've lived, and you can see they look very different. So
yes,
that's a good way for humans to relate it to humans instead of rabbits
yes, correct.
sometimes. Yeah, great.
Jen, I am committed to your time frame, and I know
Thank you.
you have a very busy schedule, but I have you on air committing to do it again. No, I'm kidding. But
I will. This was so fun. I could talk to you for hours. You kidding me?
yes,
It's my privilege. It's my
yes,
pleasure.
exactly. I feel like we just scratched the surface. We should really do it again. And I really want to thank you for the amazing knowledge you've shared with us. Very, where can people get a hold of you, follow up with you, look at more of what the beautiful work that you're doing, because you have, that was 5% of what you can
Thank you.
do.
Thank you. For personal consultations, I work on dermatologist on call, and that's just, that's a one-on-one, but I've been doing this long enough that it's my time to give back on a larger platform. So I try to have interesting conversations, which we'll share this on my platform, called Radiance Revealed. And I have no ulterior motives. It's just about sharing good information to empower people to take control of their health and bringing together specialties. So medicine has been divided over the years, and I want to bring everyone together because we're all a collective, and we can all help. And whether it's ancient wisdom, Eastern medicine, plant medicine,
Yeah.
Western medicine, there's pearls to all of it. So we're in a community just trying to put it together. So I have my podcast, Radiance Revealed, with Dr. Jen Haley, and it's on all platforms. And then also people can DM me. I can't give medical advice, but they can DM me on Instagram, and we can, if they have any ideas that they want to hear about on the platform, or anything like that, any guidance. And then I have a website, drjenhaley.com, DRJENHALEY.com. And Instagram's probably the best, and that's just at Dr. Jen Haley.
Okay, sounds great. And we also obviously would add links in the bottom.
Yes.
Dr. Jen Haley, I again thank you for the amazing time I had talking to you. You're a very interesting person, and hopefully we will do it again soon.
Yes, Amitai. Thank you. Appreciate you,
Thank you very
Amitai.
much.
Thank you.